Taiwan was listed in your poll as Australia's sort of second biggest concern. How do you explain that?
It's interesting when you look at the trend of this particular statistic. Only 3 years ago, 35% of people saw conflict over Taiwan as a critical threat to Australia's interests. Today, that figure is 65%. So it's almost doubled in the space of 3 years. And I think that reflects that people are paying attention to the rising tensions in the region.
In your poll, results show there's a bit of a tightening, a bit of a move towards more people seeing China as an economic partner versus a security threat. I mean, still more see China as a security threat than an economic partner, but there's been a narrowing there. I mean, how do you explain that?
That reflects, I think, in part, that over the last year, since the election of the Albanese government in Australia, that relations have started to thaw between Beijing and Canberra, and Australians conscious of that. We've seen glimmers of easing with some products, some trade blockages have eased, and others there's signs of potential progress. It's certainly not a whole scale opening up, but there seems to be movement at the station, and I think that's in part what this result reflects.
How much of what we're seeing in terms of government policy and public opinion, which one is leading the other here? Are warming ties leading to kind of warming perceptions of China, or towards Taiwan, for example, or do you think it's the government being led by people's views on and fears perhaps about a conflict over Taiwan?
That's a great question, Staś, and I think actually there's always a bit of both in this. It's not a clear-cut one or the other, but we do see what we have seen, I think, is that public opinion tends to follow and be shaped by the environment around it. And part of that is what politicians on both sides say, how the relationship has played out, and what's happening in terms of how China is acting in the region towards its partners and certainly, within its own borders as well.